And we're live. Hey, hi everybody. Welcome to, I don't know what we should call it, America's authors and children's book authors and illustrators. Today we're live with Marc Tyler Nobleman. And I've met Marc, I don't know, a lot out on the road. And we sort of just pass each other, say hi. And I can't say that I know him really well, but I know him well enough that I wanted him on my show because I know he has really cool books. And I have seen pieces of his talk, like when I'm walking by the room and I stop and I watch, when we're at conferences together, and I know he visits schools, and you also visit schools out of the country, don't you?
Yes.
So this is Marc Tyler Nobleman. Tell us where you are right now. Where are you right now?
Well, as you can probably tell from my background, I'm in Maryland. I'm sure it just screams Maryland, mid-Atlantic, right? And I'm in my little home office, like all of us these days. Yeah. And I'm honored to be here. Thank you for asking me to join you.
I'm in South Boston. I'm in Boston, Massachusetts. If I actually probably shouldn't try this, but there's Boston right out there. See it?
Oh yeah.
So I'm right in downtown Boston. I live in Southie, right over the border in Southie.
Okay.
That's where I am today.
I went to Brandeis.
You went to Brandeis, not
so
bad.
I should know exactly what you're talking about. I can't say no.
Did you have Tuesdays with Maury? Did you have?
I didn't have him. No.
Was he still there?
I don't know actually, but I never had him. So.
Isn't he the guy that let you grade yourself? Like I asked my friend, what did you grade yourself? He goes, I gave myself an A.
I don't know if he did that.
Oh, yeah. He used to let people grade. He used to let people grade themselves.
Oh, I don't. I would remember that. No, I didn't have him. I don't remember that either. So I don't know. He might have been a little before.
So you're in Maryland right now, but where did you grow up?
I grew up in Connecticut and went to Brandeis, and then I've lived in New York. I've lived in California, and now I'm in Maryland.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very good. So how did you start your, all right, I'll ask you this. I've asked this of some of the other authors. When you were in 4th grade, did you want to be a writer? When you were in 8th grade, did you want to be a writer? Did you think about it in college? Like, I didn't start, teachers have asked, sometimes after the show, teachers say, well, why didn't you talk about yourself? But I've been on a lot of these shows so far, so I feel like I'm repeating, but I didn't start till I was 32 years old. I had 3 kids, 2 in diapers, and my wife made me read to the kids, read to the kids, read to the kids. And that's when I said to myself, I think I could do this. Because I liked the books I was reading. Some people accused me that I didn't like the books I was reading and I wanted to write something different. That's not really true. I really liked the books I was reading. I just thought, hey, I could do this. So I didn't.
So what were you doing before?
When I got out of college, I worked at an insurance company, MONY. There used to be a big sign in downtown Manhattan, MONY.
Oh, okay.
Now swallowed up. I worked at an insurance company.
So you transitioned from that?
Years, yeah. After about 10 years, I started writing at night when my kids fell asleep. Or I wrote in traffic when I was in traffic, or I wrote wherever I could, I call myself a scrap writer. I don't know you. When I met Roland Smith, he would get up at, say, 6 a.m. and he would write till 8 a.m. Then he would go on a walk, and then he would eat breakfast, and then he would write till 11. He was like really disciplined,
Yes.
And I'm the complete opposite. I write on a napkin. I write on a phone bill. When I'm at a stop sign, I might think of something really cool and write it down. So, by the way, Colorado has joined us. Someone in Colorado has joined us.
Yes, I see that. Hello, everybody joining.
Says
it's nice to see everyone.
Yeah. So, where'd you grow up? Connecticut?
Yep. And you asked him.
Yeah, go.
I don't remember when I said I wanted to be a writer, but it wasn't 4th grade. It was probably high school, and I was writing for fun in high school. I mean, I wrote one of the earliest known examples of what they now call fan fiction. I wrote a Batman story, completely unauthorized, and because I was super into superheroes from the beginning, and I would force my friends to read it. I would print it. This is pre-digital, so I would print it out and I would pass around this single copy to my friends, and I would just sit there while they read it. And it was like a 10 or 12 page story. And not only did I force them to read it, I also asked them to write a comment at the back. So I'm not saying I invented internet comment sections, but
Yeah.
you know, 1989, I was doing that. So, I would say high school is where it started for me.
Very good.
Yeah.
And so how long before you got, well, published is a weird word, but how long before you were officially published?
Well, if you want to get technical, my first published work was a poem when I was 9. It was in my small town in Connecticut. It was a Mother's Day contest. So it wasn't in the newspaper. It counts. It was a big deal for me. But my first actual book was 1996. So I was a couple years out of college. And I didn't, like you, I don't think a lot of us planned to do this. I mean, life is so uncertain. It's just nice to see where the path takes you. But I did love books and reading and stories. And I got out of college and I was the only person I knew that didn't have a job lined up when I graduated. Everyone else was, you know, set up as a paralegal or whatever the term is when you're a new, you know, not a lawyer yet, but want to be a lawyer, or set up with their business school, whatever. I had nothing. Because I wanted to be a creative person and I didn't know how to do that professionally. So I worked at a publishing company in New York and I ended up writing my first book for them as a side job, not as part of my day job. I was hired separately for that. But as far as I thought at the time, maybe this is just a one-off thing. It was not a game plan.
Yeah. So what was your first book? Are you going to show it to us?
Yeah, I don't have it on the screen, but it's right behind me. It is the epic, the Felix Activity Book. This did not have a big impact on world literature, even though there's a globe right there. But it got me started. So it's always, you know, as you know, your first book, there's always something special about it.
Yeah.
So it was a, you know, very simple book, but it you know, it turned me on to the idea.
So when I had one book, I wrote the Ocean Outfit book. When I had one book, some teacher met me somewhere that I didn't know and said, "Hey, why don't you come visit my classroom?" And that's really where I started visiting schools. I didn't even know authors visit schools. I was like that, really, you know? So
yes.
How did you then start visiting schools when you had that book?
Well, actually, to be honest, I visited a school to focus group this because I was 23. I had zero experience with kids as an adult. I mean, I was a kid myself, of course, but I had never taught or I had not written for kids yet. So I wrote a bunch of test activities and then I went to a school in Connecticut, actually. I was living in New York at the time. And I had all these kids just try out the activities. And so you
were actually really smart because
wow.
I never really thought of that, but I do it now. I talk to kids all the time. I show them different covers. When I'm in front of an audience, I test drive different covers or different titles or different ideas. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it's fun.
Yeah, it was great. But every now and then.
But I didn't start.
Go ahead.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
Now and then someone will write a book and they'll show it to me and I say to them, "Did you ever read this in front of kids?" I say, "Well, why don't you go down the street and read this to a second grade class, see what they say, you know?"
Yeah. The eye can be fooled, but the ear can't. You can hear things. You could read a passage 10 times and feel like there's something wrong, but not know what it is. And then if you say it out loud, it just screams at you.
Yeah.
That's not why I did that. I was just trying to get the sense of what it's like to talk to kids. But I didn't start speaking in schools for about 5 years until 5 years after that. And I didn't know that was a thing either.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
So tell us what happened after that.
So that book came out to zero fanfare. But I was so in love with the idea that I had a book out and this was pre-internet really. It was on the cusp of the internet. So I wasn't doing any real promotion. I did two or three book signings. I remember, well, actually I think I did exactly 4, 2 in New York and 2 here in Maryland, weirdly enough. And for the first one, it was set up by the publisher and I was living in Manhattan and it was in Connecticut. It was a bookstore called Mill Race. I don't know if that's still there. And it was all set up, you know, they booked the train for me and I was going to go by myself by train, but that's no big deal. And then something went wrong with the train. And so, and this was before cell phones. So I remember my publicist, I called her from the train station and she said, "You're going to have to rent a car and drive." And I said, oh, I'm not really comfortable driving in the city. And she said, well, you know, you've got about an hour and they're waiting for you and you just have to be there. So I had to, you know, this doesn't sound too dramatic now, but at the time I was really terrified to rent a car and drive in Manhattan and go drive out of, and this is before GPS. I didn't know where I was going, but it worked. And then I
think that bookstore was at Farmington, I think.
Yes, it was.
Was it?
I don't know if it's still there, but yeah, it was in Farmington. And then my two in Maryland, it was also a chain called Bibelo, which I think Bibelo, it's gone now. And there were two of the same store, different locations, same day. First store, there were 30 kids and their families, so it was probably a crowd of 50 people. I was so proud of myself. I thought
that's a great signing.
It was great, and I was like, to say I was not a nobody is an overstatement. And then the second store, I was walking in all pumped, like, oh yeah, I'm going to draw crowds. One kid showed up.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we've all been there.
People ask me my favorite signing. I think it was when I went to sign at the Horticultural Society in Boston, and I thought it was a big deal. And I got there, and there were two older women there. And I had my flower book at the time, so that's one of my favorite signings.
Yes.
So there you go. People think we've never done that, but
I've had my share of that.
Yeah. So, what was your next book? Tell us about your career from then on.
So, the beginning of my writing career was a mix of a few activity style books like this one, and then I was doing some straight up nonfiction for the school and library market. So books on holidays, animals, countries. You know, it was good work for me because it was kind of like, I thought of it like my MBA, like I was getting practice. I was training myself. It wasn't the most stimulating because I wasn't able to put my own creative.
Those books were someone else's idea?
Well, it wasn't even an idea. It was just, it was a company that said, we're doing a series of books on animals, and they would send me a list of 20 animals and say, which of these 20 do you want to write about? And I said, well, I mean, none more than any other, to be honest, but I picked fox, shark, tiger, and eagle. And then I wrote those books. So but it was, again, not a creative, it had to fit a certain formula. The books had to all be the same in the series. So I wasn't able to get too creative. But all in the while, it was just my training to end up writing and trying to pitch my own stuff, which is what I ended up doing.
Yeah, I bet it was great. I bet it was great getting those contracts. Yeah,
it was great because I didn't have to go into an office. I mean, you know, now I'm not doing that either for a different reason. But it was really great training for me on the discipline of writing and the nature of research, and also just exposing myself to things that I otherwise would never have read about or written about.
Yeah.
So it was good. I mean, I like what I'm doing now much better. Obviously coming up with my own ideas and pitching them and having more creative freedom. But that was great. I mean, great training.
Okay. So what was your first book? You thought of yourself, you did it, it was something you loved. And
yes. I think that was probably, I'll see if I can screen share it. I have it here. Okay. So that was actually my only book that was not for kids, strictly for kids. Let's see if this works. Are you seeing that book cover?
Yes. What's the difference?
What's the difference? Yes. So that book I wrote for adults. It's a reference book that you can tell right away what it's about. It explains the differences between things that people mix up.
Yeah.
So there's 80 examples in there. Frog and Toad, vanilla and French vanilla, geek and nerd. Yeah. And it's written with, it's all researched, but it's also written with humor.
That's great.
So that was my first book that I pitched and sold.
Nice.
So let me see if I can now get rid of that. Stop share. But then what I call my first, not real book, but my first real passion project for kids was a book about the creators of Superman, which is called Boys of Steel. And here it's the one on the left, obviously. And then I wrote a companion on the creation of Batman. But you don't see those, do you?
I have not yet. Superman, I know a little bit about. Batman, I know nothing about. Boys of Steel, that's the creators of Superman?
Yes.
Yes.
Two Jewish teenagers from Cleveland.
I have that book and I've read that book. Yeah.
Okay.
Bill the Boy Wonder. They're saying, our secret weapons are saying I can't see it, but I can see it. So there you go. Boys of Steel, creators of Superman, Bill the Boy Wonder.
So these
tell us about Superman. So when you were a kid, you loved those characters.
Loved Superman. In fact, I'll show you how much I loved Superman. Just bear with me a second here, if I can find it. Actually, maybe I don't have it handy, but I dressed up as Superman for Halloween 3 times.
Yeah.
Which one of them was in middle school. I actually went to middle school wearing a skin tight outfit and a cape. So, yeah.
Did you go into a phone booth really fast? Did you go into a phone booth really fast to change?
No, I wish I had thought of doing that, but I was living in a really, really suburban town. We probably didn't even have phone booths. So Superman I loved him since I was a kid. And
tell us about the book. Tell us a story about it.
So that was like a double win because I loved Superman, but just because you love a character doesn't mean there's a good story behind it. There still has to be drama to write nonfiction, as you know. There has to be a meat to that. Sometimes a character is just created by a person at a desk. There's no story, but this had a story, which was these 2 teenagers who were really socially awkward and uncomfortable and shy and not athletic and not even that good in school. But loved science fiction. This was in the 30s.
Now, are either of them still alive?
No, they both died in the 90s.
Wow.
So did
you ever meet them?
I didn't, but when I got out of college, I actually, before I was working as an author, I thought I'd write a screenplay about them. And Jerry, the writer of the duo, was still alive. This was 1994. So I tried to reach him. And I wrote to the author of a book about Superman, pre-internet, and he wrote me back a letter, which I still have. It's actually on my blog. And it was this long, dense letter saying, I think it's great that you want to do this, but Jerry is in his 80s. He's not well. The family's been so burned by this whole experience. Superman was, they sold all rights to Superman for $130.
Wow.
So it's, and so he said that even if you could reach him, I don't think he'd want to talk to you or anyone at this point. So I gave up, which is totally not who I am now. I would never miss a chance to try again, because 2 years later he died. And then now we can't ever get that opportunity. So, we're not trying to make friends. We're trying to get a good story. And as long as you're polite and respectful, you got to keep pushing. So I didn't get to speak to them or meet them, unfortunately.
Yeah, people don't know this. I wanted to write a book about Neil Armstrong, but I wanted to meet him. And the only astronaut I met was Frank Borman. Frank Borman is the first guy to go around the moon and back. You might remember that. Maybe you were
did he walk on the moon?
No. He was the flight to see if it really worked, that you could go out there, get slingshot around the moon and back to Earth.
Okay.
So I got to meet him. He gave a speech in East Boston, and somehow I ended up at the speech. He came up to my chin. I couldn't believe how little he was.
Well, you got to fit in that little capsule.
Yeah. But he was great, Frank Borman. So I got to meet him. But I then wanted to write a book called Looking for Neil, because I wanted to detail myself trying to find Neil Armstrong, because I thought, wouldn't it be cool to shake the hand of the first guy on the moon? But he died before I found him. I actually found his son's high school girlfriend. So I was working through her. She was a teacher in Ohio. So I was working through her trying to. Well, I was in a class and she said she used to date Neil Armstrong's son. So she didn't know it, but I was in my head trying to think of how I could get to Neil Armstrong. But I never. And then my first publisher, who went bankrupt, wrote a book on Wally Schirra. So this is stuff people would never know about me, that I was thinking of writing books like that, but I never did it.
Yeah.
there you go.
Oh, that would have been such a thrill to meet Neil Armstrong.
Are you comfortable telling the story about what happened with Superman? Like, did those two guys draw him and
Sure.
make up stories and everything?
Yeah, well, it was a duo, and one was the writer, one was the artist. And the reason that this moved from just a personal interest of mine to a potential topic for a book was because of one simple moment, which was that, like I said, these two kids created Superman while they were still in high school. And Jerry was the writer. Yeah, they were, and it was during the Depression. So there was, it was bleak all around pretty much.
Yeah.
And Jerry was the writer, and the story that he told was that he was up all night with visions of what became Superman. He couldn't sleep. He would get out of bed, write down one element, go back to bed, try to sleep, but he couldn't. And this kept him up. And in the morning,
did those guys invent kryptonite? Like, was that?
They didn't. No, they didn't. Kryptonite came because you might remember or know that there was a Superman radio show back in the 40s. And not remember from firsthand knowledge, just maybe you've heard about it. And there was a point at which the Superman actor was sick. So they had to have a reason why Superman was not on his own show. So they invented a device to make him sick or get Superman sick.
Wow.
So they could explain Superman is, incapacitated at the moment, when it was really the actor that was too sick to perform. So it didn't come from Jerry and Joe originally.
Yeah.
But that moment that made me want to write about them was that the next morning after the sleepless night of creation, Jerry was so excited to show his friend Joe this idea that he didn't take off his pajamas. He pulled his clothes on over his pajamas, and he ran 9 blocks to his friend's apartment to show him this, this outline of a character. And I just thought that's such a fun visual for kids and such a relatable moment.
Yeah.
That he did that. So that was that little, in fact, my original thought was the whole book would be that night and the next day, just those 2 days. I expanded it a bit, but I thought that's just a cute launching pad for a story, a true story.
If I was a kid today and I read that story, it would inspire you to think of your own characters, don't you think?
I think so. And maybe even more importantly for kids is it shows that if you haven't succeeded at something, it doesn't mean you'll never succeed at anything. Because these kids were, like I said, they were just used to not doing well. And then they came up with a character that changed history. Superman was the first superhero. He kicked off a genre that is now a $1 billion industry. And it came from 2 kids in Cleveland.
Who did they sell it to?
Well, the company was called National Periodicals then. It's now known as DC Comics.
Really?
Yeah.
So DC Comics.
Yeah. Oh, today is National Superheroes Day.
Wow.
I kept seeing that. Of course, for me, that's every day. But it's nice to know
Susan Hutchins from Colorado says, on my daily calendar, one that I rip off each page each day, it says today is National Superheroes Day.
Okay.
Wow.
I'll take
Divine intervention, Mark, having you.
Yeah. I know.
Superhero intervention, having a superhero. All right. So Men of
Maybe
Steel.
It's national. Sorry?
Tell us Men of Steel, that story.
The book?
Is Men of Steel Spider-Man?
The Man of Steel is Superman.
Oh, okay.
And my book's called Boys of Steel because they were kids when they came up with it. I didn't write about Spider-Man, but someone should. I get asked that all the time. Kids love Spider. He's actually the most successful superhero.
Spider-Man?
Financially, Spider-Man.
Yep.
Batman's number 2. That might change from year to year, but at the moment. And kids ask me all the time, especially when there's a new Spider-Man movie out, if it's that year.
Yeah.
And I say that Spider-Man's not my jam, but there is a story there, and one of you guys should write it. So I hope one day one of these kids that asked me will actually do that.
Well, I'm sorry if I wasn't paying attention. Both of those books are about Superman?
Oh, no. One of them is about Batman.
Batman, excuse me.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm half asleep.
No, it's okay. You don't have to know any of this.
No, I love it. They're writers. I love writers. I mean,
they are writers.
There's
a challenge in writing a book about a writer.
I've told kids in front of audiences that I hope to write some character someday.
You mean fictional?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see it now?
You know how there's like Clifford the Red Dog, there's Captain Underpants, there's Superman, there's Spider-Man. You know, I've told kids I want to invent a creature someday. I haven't.
Oh,
done it yet.
okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you meant you want to write about the creation of a famous character or you want to make up your own character.
No, I want to make up my own.
Yeah, you should.
Oh, I see it. Secret co-writer, co-creator of Batman.
Yes. So
now, is that Bill Finger? Is that
yes,
Bill Finger?
That is Bill Finger.
See, I remember your lecture that I saw.
Yes.
Bill Finger. Yes.
This book
so
became my.
Bill Finger. Where did he live?
He was born in Colorado. I know we have a Colorado contingency on this, watching this right now. He was born in Denver, but he lived most of his life in New York, and he co-created Batman in the Bronx.
Wow, in the Bronx. Wow.
In the Bronx, yeah, in the 30s, 1 year after Superman. And yeah, and the Superman story is actually a bit it's quite tragic. I don't cover that in the story proper. I talk about that in the author's note. But the Batman story is even more tragic. These are not, you know, they don't have the same, you know, up with people feeling as a superhero story does. They're tough stories about people that got.
You don't have to answer this. Did you have to pay for that Superman logo?
No. Well, the logos that you see here are not actually on the book cover. It's just on my slide.
On the book cover. They're on your slide. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but we would not have been able to use those logos or the actual figure on the cover. And we had we could use them a limited number of times in the book.
Yes.
It's called fair use. You know, it was a tricky situation because I'm writing about real people, but their claim to fame is an intellectual property of a major company. DC Comics is owned by Warner Brothers, which is owned by Time Warner. I mean, this is a huge company. So we needed to.
All the time. Kids ask me all the time, why don't you write who would win, Batman versus Superman? And I explain to them that I don't own those guys.
Right.
So I can't do it unless I pay them, and I don't feel like paying them.
Right. Or they ask you to write it.
Yeah.
There was a series though. I think it was Scholastic, which was who would win, but with Star Wars characters, and then with DC Comics superheroes. It was just pairing them up and analyzing the fight and who would win.
I thought of asking if I could do like Tom Brady versus versus Peyton Manning.
You should do a whole sports series of that because you like sports, right?
Yeah, sure.
You should do that, like a whole bunch of hypothetical Super Bowls.
I'm now a Tampa Bay Bucks fan. You know.
Oh, because Tom Brady.
Because Tommy left,
Yeah.
I think most Bostonians are like that, but we'll see what happens.
Is there gonna be a big wave
Mark,
of? Yeah.
Mark, I think you owe me 9 cents. It says, "Hi, Mark. Just ordered Boys of Steel. I'm excited to read your books."
Oh, I'll send you 9 cents. Thank you, Craig.
You owe me 9 cents.
All right. I'm good for it.
Schroeder. I forget where Craig is from. Maybe someone out there can tell us. Hi, Craig. He's from Nebraska. Isn't that unbelievable?
Yeah.
You got to love this technology. Canada, Nebraska.
One word.
Colorado.
One world.
I'm in Southie. You're in Connecticut. I mean Maryland. You're in Maryland. It's just great. All right. So keep going. What's your next character you might do, or is that top secret?
Well, I've been saying it to schools for years, so I'm assuming some of the kids haven't kept a secret, so I can say it here. I mean, there's only one other character that as of now I want to write about, and that's Wonder Woman. But there are some extenuating circumstances or conditions. One is that I have to have a female illustrator because for obvious reasons, and I prefer a female illustrator from the LGBT community because in some current mythologies, Wonder Woman is represented as gay. It's not a big part of the storyline, but sometimes that's mentioned, or that's part of the mention. And also, the story's a little tricky for my format. It's quite sophisticated, and I don't know if I can make it happen. But I would love to do that.
Yeah. Wow. What was I going to say? Is the writer of Wonder Woman still alive?
All these people are gone. I mean, this is all stuff that,
Really?
Wonder Woman debuted in
I'm
1941.
I'm a morbid interviewer, I guess,
No, it's okay. Look, I wish they were. I mean, I would love to be able to interview them. I did interview Wonder Woman's creators' granddaughters.
Oh
So
yeah, that's
that's the
great.
closest I can get.
Here, this is from 3 girls in a YouTube, whatever that means. That's someone out there. We thank you for watching us. And it says, I really like superhero Wonder Woman. So I'm
Ah,
not sure if they said that before you said it or after you said it.
I don't know. I would
I'd
love
have
to do it. Oh,
Yeah,
before.
that's great. Oh, before.
Yeah.
Wow,
Well,
isn't that great?
I do want to try. And now in quarantine, I have more time to try to make it happen. So I would love to make that happen. When I announced it,
Go ahead.
yeah. When kids ask me this in assemblies, and I say Wonder Woman, before her movie came out in 2017, that already got a great reaction. Kids, she's just so popular. And now, since the movie, I feel like a great reaction from all genders. Before, I don't know if it was more girls than boys, but I think probably. And now it's so nice to see that boys are cheering for a female hero. And my son upstairs has a Wonder Woman poster in his room. I mean, I just love all this. So she's a great character, gender aside. But it's just nice to see that she's accepted by all kinds of kids.
Oh, that's nice. Really nice. Okay, keep going. Show us some more books.
Yeah. All right. Well, some more books. Here's Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins. I didn't write this one, but it's right here on my desk. Also, funnily enough, on my desk, Jerry, you'd like this book. It's called The Writer's Desk. It's just photographs of writers at their desk.
Oh yeah, you asked me about that, right?
Did I? Yeah. So I just have it here on my desk.
Didn't I send you a picture of me? I did.
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah. So for people that are watching that don't know what we're talking about, a few years ago, I asked a bunch of writers to email me a photo of their desk with no identifying items on it. So
did I make the grade?
Yeah, you did. You're in there. So it was 36 authors, children's authors, and their desk. And then I had a list of the 36 people that you had to match with the photo, and people played along and tried to guess, and it was cute. You were one of them, yeah. So that's where that idea came from. This book right here.
Wow.
Oh, my husband says Wonder Woman said it was the best movie created so far. So I guess that person likes the Wonder Woman movie best of all the superhero movies.
Wow.
I think that's what it means.
Yeah.
Wow. So sorry.
Pretty good.
And your Who Would Win books were really popular with my son. I used to love to read them, and I love to read them myself, actually.
Now, how old is he?
Now he's 12. I was
he's
reading
12,
them to him when he was younger.
Yeah, that's great.
I thought those were a great idea. Was that your idea, that series?
Totally my idea, yeah.
Yeah, and it's still going, right?
I was stuck in an airport for 5 hours because of thunderstorms. I think it was, between Atlanta and somewhere, And at first I was mad, and then I sat down. I kept thinking and thinking. And what I really thought of was doing a picture book of a killer whale and a great white shark. And because of Jaws, I thought the shark was like the ultimate killing machine. But, in real life, he's just a fish.
So I forgot that one. So the killer whale would beat the shark in your book?
3 seconds.
Really?
3-second fight. Yeah.
Wow.
They've filmed it, actually. Tell your son to go on YouTube and punch up killer whale, great white shark, Farallon Islands. The Farallons are these islands off the coast of San Francisco. They're about 20 miles out. They look like that. They look like fingers, I guess.
Okay.
They're called devil's teeth, they call them. Nobody can live on them. They're so steep. There's just birds on them.
Uh-huh.
So during the summer, the great white sharks go out there.
And they filmed a fight between a shark and a...
Yeah, if you want to read a great nonfiction book, the editor of O Magazine wrote a book called Devil's Teeth. And it's about the great white sharks that go to the Farallons every summer. But after she wrote the book, no one had seen this before. The killer whales showed up one day and picked a fight with them. So I'll tell you another
that's-
fact I forgot. Huh?
Yeah. And that there's
Yeah.
a film of that on YouTube?
Yeah, National Geographic did a little documentary, and it's the killer whales show up at the Farallones one summer, unexpected. Like here's these cute little, tourist boats, and they get to witness a vicious fight between the great whites and the killer whales. So the great white sharks, that they tag the great white sharks. The great white sharks then take off, and they go to this area off of Peru, which is called Great White Shark Cafe. So if you want to have some fun, go on Google and punch up Great White Shark Cafe. So there's a book for you. Off the coast of Peru, all the great white sharks assemble there, and they have no idea why they're there or what the attraction is. I think it's about 1,000 feet deep they go to, and they all hang out there. Then they come all the way up the coast to San Francisco and go to the Farallones, and until the killer whales showed up. But I think the killer whales have since they haven't been back there after they picked a fight with them. So, oh yeah, there's 1 million seals there, and I think the killer whales, the great white sharks, go there for the seals. So there's a lot of seals there.
Yeah, that would make sense.
So people would go to watch that, and then yeah. So they have filmed the fight a few times.
I'll have to look that up.
It's really
I mean, I've been on a whale watch where we saw no whales, and these people go on a whatever they were doing, and they see a fight between a shark and an orca. I mean, I'm using the wrong.
I think I have a better one than that. I went out on a boat for an hour. We went like 30, 40 miles, and then we came back in, and there was a whale right outside the harbor. So we went 40 miles when there was one mile away. That happened to this one.
Someone asked us a question here, Jerry. How important are illustrations in our books?
In my books, I would say very important. I try to have it look great, very engaging. Although I had this dispute recently with some other authors, photographs versus illustrations. I have found, reading to my kids when they're little, that they paid attention on illustrations, and in photographs they just wandered. That's what I found. So your books are illustrated, right?
All of the picture books are illustrated, and then my earlier stuff had photographs too. But mostly custom illustration. Now, did you have the same illustrator for? Sorry.
So Who Would Wins? There's 25 Who Would Wins. They're all the same guy, Rob Bolster.
Okay, I was going to ask that. Yeah.
Yeah, and Rob.
Have you ever?
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Rob did my Hershey series, Hershey Man series. So Rob did those, and he did a few other books, my Construction Alphabet and my Golden Lobstering book.
Do you ever get really crazy matchup questions from kids at school visits, like who would win, a cobra or an Asian elephant, or who would win, like a penguin or a flamingo?
Oh yeah.
You get that?
I think my favorite all time is a kid who told me that I should have a blue whale fight a mosquito, and then have the mosquito give the blue whale malaria, and then the blue whale dies, and the mosquito win.
Mosquitoes are the most dangerous.
There's a kid with a really brilliant mind, I think.
Yeah, he's right. Mosquitoes are the most deadly animal on Earth, aren't they? They cause the most deaths because of malaria. And
did you see that in National Geographic? Not to get on a morbid subject.
I saw it somewhere.
They list all the animals in the world with the most trouble. And
you being a
snails, 200,000 dead in a year from snails.
From eating snails?
No, from snails, stepping on them. Somewhere in the
snails
world,
dead. I thought you meant snails killing other animals.
Killing people. 200,000 people died from snails a year.
But by stepping on them?
I think stepping on them, yeah.
But how does that kill somebody?
They have poison.
Oh.
They shoot poison. They shoot venom.
You know what animal kills the most people in the United States besides humans?
I'd have to really think about that. Really? Besides humans?
Well, yeah. What animal?
I'll say mosquitoes.
Deer. Because of car accidents.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Speaking of morbid, how did we get so morbid here? Let's go back to something a little more upbeat. Okay, the question about illustration. So in my books as well, it's also really important. And I'm sure like Jerry, I really love the opportunity to work closely with the illustrator, even though we're never in the same room, but it's all done through the computer. But when I'm doing nonfiction, it's really vital for me that the art is as accurate as possible. So I send tons of reference images from my research, and I even sometimes specify exactly which ones I would hope the artist could use, recreate in the book in a way. And they're usually very accommodating. I think a lot of artists appreciate that. It just saves them a little work. And they also want it to be accurate. So I've been really lucky with all of my illustrated books.
Well, when I did an alphabet on the Army, an alphabet on the Marines, an alphabet on the Navy, and those have to be totally accurate because they're nonfiction, totally accurate. Like animals, you could kind of fluff it a little, and all the animals sort of look different, but
right.
An F-14 and an M1 tank, they look a certain way. So
yeah,
those books were really strict about the illustrations. All the photographs.
I'll screen share something that is a little interesting story about art. So, as you know, Jerry.
Yeah.
I'm going to screen share here. When we are at the art phase, do you see a picture on the screen now? So for those who don't know this that are listening, when the editing's done and the artist has gone to work, the editor will send we writers the art digitally. We'll get to see how the sketches first, and then we can make comments, and then send us the final art. And it's like a point of no return day where the editor will email you and say, this is your last chance to find a mistake or make any comments. After this, we're going to final on the art. So that you've had that experience too, right, Jerry? Yeah. So this is Boys of Steel, the Superman book. So they sent me my final layout, and they said, make any last minute comments. And this was a spread in the book. You can see it's a movie theater. Those of you listening might remember movie theaters. And it's Superman on the screen. So I didn't make any comments. I said, it looks great. And then 6 months later, when I got my author copies, this page suddenly looked like this. They changed it to black and white, and nobody asked me, nobody told me that they were going to do that. I had given my final approval. And so at some point after I gave the approval, an editor said, or, maybe
movies were black and white back then.
Yeah, they said if this was 1940s, it would be black and white, which is logical. But unfortunately, it's wrong because Superman's screen debut was not live action, it was animation. And those were in full color in the 40s. So this was right, and this is wrong. And so now my book is wrong.
Which one? Oh, your book has that.
Has the black and white, so it's wrong.
Yeah.
Now, there's precisely 0 people in the world that would care besides me. But I still wanted it to be accurate, and it bummed me out. And, of course, once there's a book in print, they don't make changes unless it's really, really serious. It's expensive.
So they never fixed that? They never fixed it?
Never fixed it.
Wow.
Yeah. No big deal.
Yeah.
I'll have bigger problems to worry about.
Right.
But I just,
I'll show you a mistake in my book, but I blame myself. I don't blame the illustrator. Mm-hmm. And here you go. See the warthog there?
Yeah.
There's the warthog. They do not stand up when they eat. They kneel down because their neck is so short they can't reach the ground. So for him to eat the grass on the ground or whatever was on the ground, he kneels. So I have pictures of them in Africa. So no one's caught that yet, but there's a mistake in my book right there.
So I feel for you. I know exactly how you feel.
It's not anyone's fault. I'll see if I can find another good one for you. That's a pretty good one,
Yeah.
I'll think of something else.
Well, actually it's not that interesting, but yeah, I found other mistakes or potential mistakes and then caught them in time, luckily.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I could show you this one that no kid has ever caught yet. You ready?
Yes.
So I wrote a book. I talked about this yesterday. Tyrannosaurus Rex Velociraptor.
Uh-huh.
Now, I really made a big mistake on this book. The T-Rex is 20 feet tall, and the Velociraptor is 3 feet tall. But when I started writing the book, I didn't know that, because the movie, the Velociraptor, is 12 feet tall. Spielberg is full of baloney. They're only 3 feet tall. So it wouldn't fit the movie really to fight a 3-foot dinosaur, right? So they made them 12 feet tall. But Velociraptors are only 3 feet tall.
Oh,
so
I did not
in
know
the
that.
book, so we were heavy into the book, half illustrated, when I realized the mistake. So it's all my fault. I wasn't paying attention. But at the very first fight scene, he grabs one of the Velociraptors and that's the end. So the fight should be over, and kids should realize, hey, the T-Rex won, the Velociraptor's dead. You know, we hardly ever show blood, but for some reason the illustrator felt because they're 70 million years old, no one would complain.
Right.
So there's a little blood right there.
There is a statute of limitations on blood. If it's old, you can show it. Everyone knows that.
But look, in the end of the book, you know,
they team up.
Them.
Yeah, they gang
team
up
up
on
and
them.
they take down the T-Rex. So
yeah,
the kid goes away from the book thinking the T-Rex lost.
Yeah.
But I keep saying to myself, no one has caught this yet, that he grabbed him. That he grabbed him and took out the first one. But nobody's written anything yet about that.
Yeah.
So somehow I got away with that one.
Well,
so
yeah. Speaking of blood, I can tell you a funny story. It's not about accuracy per se. Well, in a way it is. I'm going to see if I can share my screen again. Bear with me 1 second here. So one of my picture books is fiction. Let's see if this works. Oh, nope, that didn't work. Sorry, it's not working. I'll just take it off the shelf then. Sorry, that's not as high tech, but
that's okay.
So,
well, while you're looking for that,
yeah,
I'll see if I can find something.
Well, I got it's not on the screen digitally, but this is a comedy called The Chupacabra Ate the Candelabra. Are you familiar with chupacabras?
Yes.
So it's
don't they eat goats? Do they eat goats
yes.
or something like that?
It's the Spanish chupacabra in Spanish means goat sucker. So it's a myth.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's a myth.
Well,
that has a start date, unlike, you know, Bigfoot or maybe the Loch Ness Monster, which go back centuries. And we have early reports, but we don't know what the actual first report was. With the chupacabra, we do. It was 1996. It was in Puerto Rico. Someone reported something that came to his farm and killed goats, but didn't eat the flesh. Instead, it drank the blood like a vampire. So this was the beginning of this, what they then called the chupacabra. And now there's been reports all over the world, really, primarily in Central and South America and the Southern US, but I've been around the world and people have heard about it. So when the book came out, the Junior Library Guild, this organization that pre-screens books and can sometimes gives their stamp of approval on certain books, they liked the book, I'm happy to say, but then they wrote us a note saying, but just as a point of clarity, chupacabras drink blood. They don't eat the flesh. Because in my book, it's about 3 goats who are afraid of the chupacabra coming to eat them. And, you know, of course, we all, you know, I had a laugh about that. And I know that they weren't telling me to change it, because getting back to your point about the blood, it's actually better to say that this animal might eat these goats rather than drink the blood. Like, you're not going to put an animal drinking blood in a picture book. But it's okay to say that,
because no kid would ever say, I'm afraid they're going to drink my blood.
Right. Well, or it sounds grosser. Like, it's okay to say that, okay, this creature might eat you, but it's not okay to say he's going to drink your blood. That's the line you don't cross with picture books. So it was just funny that the Junior Library Guild was pointing that out, and we're all thinking, well, yeah, but we're not going to change it to him drinking the blood. It's, you know, in Grimm's fairy tales, things are eaten all the time, and kids know that. So, but the drinking of the blood, we got to lay off that
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking back to growing up at the beach. No kid ever said, "I'm afraid a shark is going to drink my blood." You know,
Right.
they were always afraid they're going to get eaten. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. True.
So I thought that was funny.
Well, so I don't know how to end. We've gone almost an hour. Can you believe that? It seems like 10 minutes. You've been such a great guest.
Well, talking shop is
Is
fun.
there anything special you want to tell? You visit schools, so teachers out there, have Mark visit your school. Kids would love to hear his stories. Love to
Yeah,
hear.
I hope we can go back to that. And in the meantime, I'm doing online creative writing seminars, which is fun, but I do miss the in-person experience.
I probably need one of those. I probably need a seminar.
We all do. We're all learning.
That's right.
So yeah, that's one of the greatest honors of.
Yeah, maybe as a final shot, you could tell us something special about yourself that none of us know. So I could put you on the spot like that. We'll have to think of something really cool. Why don't you think of something really cool about yourself you could tell these kids?
Well,
maybe you were a Superman in a prior life or something.
No, nothing that cool. But I have a fun fact, which I said once somewhere, and then it made its way online somewhere, I don't know where, and now it comes up a lot of times in introductions at events, and I don't know where it's. Yeah. I just mentioned it once, but now I'll just say it again. My only talent besides writing is I can throw blueberries in the air and catch them in my mouth. So
pretty good.
Not quite a circus act, but that's all I got.
You know what? Next time I'm at a conference, I'm gonna buy some blueberries at Starbucks and sneak them over. And
throw them at me if I'm up there and see if I can catch them while I'm talking.
Yeah,
I'd give them their money's worth. Yeah,
well, that's great.
So thank you very much, Jerry.
Can you think of anything else? Thank you for coming on. This is great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just have a general comment, given the times, to everyone listening, that I appreciate what everyone is doing behind the scenes to help make this experience easier. I don't know. I doubt we have any first responders or frontliners listening because they're all busy working. But thank you to all the people that are out there in the supermarkets and, of course, in the hospitals and doing the work that's saving lives, even in quiet ways. And I thank all the teachers and educators that had to completely pivot and jump into this distance learning thing with almost no prep whatsoever, and try to make our kids' experience as smooth as possible. It's not an easy task, as we both know, as we all know, and I thank them profoundly for that. And I hope that I can see you all again in person before long, because that's, again, a great privilege of mine to visit schools.
And thank you for coming on. Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching Authors and Illustrators on Live. And we hope that teachers that we helped you in the classroom, or we helped you with your students, hopefully this all ends soon. We'll see you in class. We'll see you at your schools. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.